Baby is very chatty today. Welcome to this week's podcast, guys. I am committed to you. I am showing up. You might hear my baby because he is with me and he cannot go anywhere. He is attached at my hip. And today is the end of the day. I am still showing up because I'm committed. I love doing this for you guys. I love showing up for you guys. And I swear, it's a Sunny's show today. He wants to chat with you guys. I love it. Okay. Hi. Hi. This is real life. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Spotify and you see video, we're in my environment. We got cars behind me on the floor from my toddler, from him before bed. Tonight was tantrum city with my toddler. He's dealing with emotions like they are at that age, and for no reason was crying for every single thing. I was just holding space for him and trying to be patient and show him love, but also space, and let him actually feel his emotions and let them out, because I feel like that's so important, and I would have wanted someone to show up that way for me. So that's how I'm showing up for him. I also am showing up for you guys because I definitely wanted to film the podcast on Wednesdays, like I told you last week in my time management podcast. Wednesday morning I planned out that I would film my podcast, but I did not put it in my calendar, so I forgot, and I booked a Reiki session this morning. So I had a Reiki session this morning, which was insane, so interesting. If you guys are interested about that, let me know. I will definitely invite someone on the podcast to talk about Reiki and explain Reiki, because it is a beautiful modality, a beautiful healing modality for anyone to be able to access, and it's very accessible to anyone, anywhere. If you live close to Montreal, let me know. I have a couple of contacts for that, and if not, you can always search it on your Google, wherever you live. I digress. So sorry for baby feeding noises. You might be used to this by now if you tune into the podcast regularly. I got a newborn with me. He is with me. I still want to show up for you guys. I still want to be here and give you guys informative and fun and inspiring content. So he's got to be with me because he's literally attached to me like a little sensu, we say in French, which is called a leech, I guess, in English. And I'm hoping my partner does not come home, because thank God he had something tonight. That means that I could show up and film for you guys without being shy. As you'll have seen from the title of this podcast, today I want to talk about resourcefulness. It is such a powerful, amazing quality to develop, and I think it's so important to hone in on that quality and to develop it in your personality in order to achieve amazing things in your life. I really believe that having that character trait as part of my personality is something that has attracted immense success in different areas of my life, and gratification, and also kind of like a groundedness and a trust and a faith, if you want, in everything, in the fact that everything is going to be okay. Everything can work itself out. There are always resources and ways to figure something out. There's always a different perception to have. There's a different way to think about something or to approach a certain situation, and seeing it from that way and being someone who's resourceful really, really gave me faith. And you don't need to have a religious background or have like religious beliefs in order to have faith. You can have faith, you can have reverence for life without necessarily having a religion that you are tied to. I'm tied to no religion. I don't want to like choose a specific one. Of course, I was born into a family who practiced or like lightly practiced a certain religion, but it's not necessarily what I identify with, because I don't identify with anything specific. I do identify with the fact that I feel spiritual, and I feel like I have a deep faith, and I feel like my faith really drives my resourcefulness. And I didn't even think I would say this. I'm just like letting it go, and it's like coming up. But it's when I read Seed of the Soul, talks about faith and reverence, and a lot of Gabby Bernstein's book as well talk about God and faith and all that. And when she says God, which I love in her books, I think that's what she believes in. But when she says that, she says, if you guys want, you can replace God by whatever you want, or you can replace it by universe. And I love replacing it by universe, because I want it general. I want it to be open, because then for me it's more connected and more aligned with my own person. So do whatever works for you in order to develop your faith. But I really feel like faith and resourcefulness are closely tied, because if you have faith, You know that there are resources that will come to you. There are things that are going to show up. There are books that are going to fall on your lap. There are things that are going to show up when you search on Google, when you talk to people, when you connect with people about certain situations or hardships that you are going through. You know that if you have faith, a deep faith and a reverence for life, you know that something's going to pop up in your energy field. It's going to pop up on your path, and you'll feel aligned and guided to it, and it will help you overcome whatever it is that you are overcoming, whatever answer that you are seeking and needing at that time. So I really, really believe that that's correlated, and I wrote notes before this podcast episode, and I did not know I would say that, and I feel like that's really, really important. You do not need to have any religion affiliation to anything, any religion, in order to have faith. You can have faith by just choosing to have faith in the universe, in life, and knowing that you can figure it out. Faith in yourself, faith in your higher self, faith in the circumstances that you are in, and knowing that you can attract and find solutions to things and get on the right path. Resourcefulness for me is the number one thing that has got me to where I am today. Being resourceful has got me where I am in regards to my relationship, to having my babies, the career I have right now. And it's what helps me and drives me to keep pushing and know that I can keep developing certain areas of my life. So right now, whatever areas I'm working on in my life right now that I'm choosing to work on, I am being resourceful in those areas and being open to different resources that can come on my path, and that I know that will show up and help me to achieve new heights in the areas that I'm working on right now. For me, resourcefulness has helped me get through major PTSD and anxiety following a big car accident that I had when I was 19 years old. It has helped me deal with two miscarriages back to back and then have my two amazing baby boys. It's helped me with the career path I'm on right now and the direction I'm in. It has helped me with friendships, with relationships, with taking care of my home. That's one of the areas right now in my life that I'm focusing on and being resourceful in, and discovering different resources and ways to deal with my home and to like shift my mindset about how I care for my home and how I show up for myself in that way. Another quality that is very linked to resourcefulness is resilience. And my childhood was a certain way, and a lot of my friends would a lot of the time say like, you're so resilient, you're so resilient. I think resilience is very important. It's important to bounce back. It's important to stay strong and stand up and get over things, and to have your 2 feet firmly planted on the ground. That's amazing, and you're getting back up and you're getting back up. But resourcefulness brings it to a new level, because you are not allowing whatever it is that is hitting you down to keep hitting you down. You're getting back up, but then you're becoming resourceful. You're finding different ways to deal with the situation, to show up to it, and to actually persevere and to actually achieve things and move on and not get put down again once more. So it's one thing to be resilient, but you can be the most resilient person, and if you don't have resourcefulness, you're not going to keep advancing, and you'll just stay in one spot and keep getting put down and put down and put down. So for me, resourcefulness is being open to find a way. There is always a way. There is always a way out, a way through, a way over, a way to the left, to the right, whatever it is that you want. There is always a way to deal with the situation. And so this goes back to kind of when we were talking about identity shifting and being the person you want to become. You really need to make sure that your focus of control, so like your internal locus, is fixated on the fact that you believe that you actually have power to change things, that you believe that you have an impact on your environment, that you believe that you can actually have an impact and make decisions and choices that will impact your exterior life, and that you are powerful and can control and impact that. But if you do not believe that, and you believe that you are not in control and that exterior things can happen and come and put you down. So we were talking about that a lot in personal responsibility, the podcast number 2, if I'm not mistaken, or the third one, the second or the third one, which was on personal responsibility, was really covering, are you focused on, are you a victim, or are you fully owning your life and you fully think that you have an impact, whether it be big or small, on anything that is happening to you? You have an impact in the way you're perceiving it. You have an impact in the way you are showing up to it. Whatever situation you are showing up, or whatever situation is happening to you, the way you are choosing to show up to it, first of all, is fully in your control and in your power. It can be something horrendous, and I'm so sorry if that's happening, but you still have control over how you're showing up. And I hope that I'm giving you power by saying that, and I'm giving you hope, because you do definitely have control in that sense of how you are showing up to a certain situation that is difficult. Again, this is Sunny's podcast. He's talking with you guys. He wants to chat. I'm sorry if you hear noises. Hopefully my message is clear and you're still getting insights and inspiration from it. So let's talk a bit about stories and the situations that I've went through where I was resourceful. And my hope in doing that is to have kind of conversation and to be sharing with you guys and have fun and give you a bit of a story time, but also for that story time to inspire you guys and to give you kind of ideas where you can use those ways of thinking that I would apply to certain situations and then apply it to your own life and maybe bring about a situation that you really wanted for yourself. Without further ado. Okay, so I feel like a really fun story is kind of where I got to where I'm at in my career right now, because there's certain parts of the story where you and I wondered, like, what am I doing here? Why am I in this industry? Why am I in this space? Why am I at this place or whatever it is that it was? But like everything worked out because I kept being resourceful. I kept staying open to possibilities. And by being resourceful means that you're open to discussing with people, connecting with people, and trying to discover and uncover what it is that you're going to do next about a certain situation. And because you're curious, you're open and you're resourceful, things show up on your path and they open up doors and they lead you different ways, and you always find your way back home to your soul purpose, to your core, to the direction you're supposed to be in. I'm in an industry I did not think I would be in, but it's still fully aligned with my core purpose. And if I did not take all the turns that I took and that were confusing to me at some points, I would not be where I'm at right now, with the family I have, with the love I have of my life, with my career. Like, this all brought me to these certain decisions that brought me to where I am right now, where I'm fully fulfilled, and I'm obviously still working and pushing myself to uncover and heal certain areas, but I'm very, very happy with my career and the family that's come from that as well. The family and the love that's come from that as well. So I started working when I was pretty young. I was 14 years old, even I think 13, but I was like, obviously that's illegal. So I was like doing unpaid work if you want, but I was like, I wanted to work. I wanted to be on the market. I wanted to work as a camp counselor. When I understood I could work, it wasn't even for the money. I wanted to work. I wanted to be doing something. I wanted to be a part of a team. I wanted to help. I wanted to lead. And in that case, it was leading as a camp monitor or as a camp counselor. How do you call it? Like a day camp in the summer, a summer day camp. I really wanted to be like my idols, who were the camp monitors that we called them. So as soon as I could get on that train and start learning from them and start working with them, I was the first one to put up my hand and to work with them. And I quickly got a job doing that as well. So I started when I was 14 years old working there. And then shortly after, so that's like really interesting thinking back, because that's definitely a leadership position and kind of like making people happy, taking care of people. That's really, really things that are aligned with my soul and how I show up for the work I do in this lifetime. So that's what I did for that first summer of work that I did. And then I ended up working in a movie theater for 5 years. So like all of my high school years, I was working at this movie theater. I was working there and I had no necessarily passion for film or any of this sort. It was just a small town and there were not a lot of jobs, and for me that was a fun job. I liked my colleagues, I liked my boss, and I worked there for all throughout high school. And then when you live in the Laurentians, where I am from, when you are done high school in English, you have to move to the city, to Montreal, in order to continue your studies in English. If not, you live up north and you drive, which is a really long drive and a lot of traffic. So it's like an hour drive or more with traffic. So it's common for people to move out at 17. I didn't move out like for any other reason than the fact that we were going to study, and we had to move out in order to have access to the colleges here. So it's not university, it's college and then university. That's what we call it here. So CEGEP and then university in Canada, Montreal. So I went to Montreal to study in English at Dawson College, and we moved out with my girlfriends, and that's common to do, like I was saying. it's common to do, because if you want to continue your educational path in English and not switch it to French, you need to move out of your parents' place, move to the city, and all of us do it. So we do it and we move in together. I moved in with two of my girlfriends. And in regards to the career, so I was going to school and I was working full time. And so my boss from the theater, the movie theater where I was working, he knew someone who owned a movie theater in Montreal, and he simply asked them to interview me and see if they wanted me to be part of their team, and they transferred me to a Cineplex. So I love movie theaters because of that era. I love going to the movies. I didn't like working there, obviously. Like, it was just a student job. It was fine. Like up north when I was working was fine, but then in Montreal, that was a whole other story. I was not prepared for that shock. I'll talk a bit about it because it was interesting. But yes, I love going to the movies. I love popcorn. I love sitting down and having that experience and being taken on to another world. And this brings me to a really side note that's very important that I want you guys to know, is that anything you're watching on TV, movies, whatever it is, it's programming you. Have you ever been to the movies and you watch the movie and you love it and you walk outside and you're influenced by it and you're excited? Let's say Fast and Furious, when people go watch those movies, when they leave the theater, there's a lot more car accidents. There's a lot of people speeding their cars because people are inspired by the movie and they're leaving the theater and they're doing things. So it has impacted their behavior, and it's going to impact their subconscious mind. Whatever you're watching, it's impacting your subconscious mind. So side note, be careful. So going back to the story, I was working in the theater in Montreal. So I got interviewed and I got hired and I got transferred there. That was a really, really tough time in my life because I was working full time and going to school full time. And that was already a lot because the program I was in required me not to work. They even suggested strongly that we don't work. But I mean, my parents were not living in Montreal. I was living alone in an apartment at 17. I needed the funds. I needed to work. I needed money to work. So I was definitely working as much as I could. And I was working in this theater in Montreal. And like I said, I loved movies at this point, but I wasn't a movie geek and loving theater or anything of the sort. Just student job. I liked going to the movies. I did not like working at that theater. Nothing against that company. The company was great and the trainings were good. The direction, or what is it called? The management was really, really, really sweet and nice. That was perfect. But I mean, I had never been exposed to such a large array of, what is it called? Colleagues. Okay, so where I was working was a small town. We were a couple of colleagues. I had a couple colleagues. We were maybe 5, max 10 people in total, with the owners. It wasn't a lot of people working. And now I was exposed to a big city, to maybe 50 plus employees working together, even more, I would say. I don't even know the numbers, but it was just a big shock for me. It was a big city. It was very different. The clientele was different. Everything was fast paced, different, very, very intense. And I did not like my experience at all. I was very unhappy. I had started really showing in my work. I tried to show up and be the best I could because that was really something that my dad taught us, to have really, really good, strong work ethic, to show up fully wherever we were, to really give it our all. I was used to that and I kept doing that, but I was doing it and showing up and trying to do the work, this, what is it called? Minimum wage work as a theater person, and going up the positions and doing the popcorn, then doing the tickets, and then they had a Tim Hortons, so they put me in that position even though I really didn't want that. And that really, really tipped me over. So they had a Tim Hortons in that complex and they needed staff there because they were missing staff. And so they're like, we're going to train you for that. And I kind of didn't have a choice. It was you're working here. We need you to do that. So you're going to do that. And I remember feeling okay, I didn't even think I could say no. I probably could have, I guess, but I really didn't realize. And I was not thinking I can say no. In my mind, it's this is my source of income. I live in an apartment now. I'm very young. I need money if I want to keep going to school, if I want to keep upkeep my apartment and my rent and all that. I need to keep working and I need to do whatever it is they're asking me. So I did that and I was so unhappy. I remember I would meet up with my girlfriends afterwards. I would cry a lot of the times. I was not myself as a worker as well. So I'm 18 here at this point, maybe 18. But I was not showing up as myself and I was already feeling burnt out. And when you're feeling burnt out, you can't show up in a service position and be happy and jolly and be yourself. You're going to be somebody else that you don't like. And at some point it's a vicious cycle of you showing up, not being happy, not serving your clients amazingly because you're not feeling amazing, and them not really liking your service and then like it coming back on you and just being a bad situation. Like it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't like a nice situation, and I wasn't happy, I wasn't fulfilled. I was definitely slowly burning out. So what happened for me in that situation is that instead of putting my guard down, my arms down, and being kind of like, well, this is whatever I know, like that my CV has 1 or 2 positions before this, like I can't apply to anything else. Like I wasn't thinking of like things I could apply to, but at this point I was so unhappy that I started developing and flexing my resourcefulness muscle and connecting with people and sharing with my girlfriends that I was not happy, and being open, just staying open as I always had been, to there must be a way. Like even though I'm not seeing it, even though I think that I'm stuck in this position and like I can't do better than this, there must be a way to like get out of it. And when you're open and you're resourceful, you'll see something and you'll like kind of have this, what is it called? Kind of have this innocence of like, I can ask for that. I can question this. I can see maybe this is possible. So what I mean by that is, this applied to my story is the fact that I had a girlfriend who had just started working for a restaurant, and I think she was hostessing, and that for me, this is really a good example as well, is like that for me was like, okay, she can do it, maybe I can do it too. And it's kind of innocence of like, this person did it, maybe I can do it, and kind of like being innocently drawn in and being resourceful by finding that opportunity, and then being a little bit innocent in the sense of like, maybe I can do this, maybe I can apply, maybe I can try, and you never know. And so I did, and I showed up and I tried and I applied at that restaurant, applied for anything they wanted to, and they took me on as a suiteur. So yes, I applied and they took me on as a runner, which runs the food, brings out the plates. And that was a really big jump for me and a really challenging situation in the sense that like I had no experience. They took a chance with me. They liked my energy, I guess. And I showed up and I did the best I can. I needed to know the menu by heart. I needed to know like the ingredients that were on the plate. And I remember like for me, it was so hard to learn. And I practiced so hard learning every single ingredient, every single kitchen term that I didn't know before, in order to explain the plate when I would bring it to the table. And it was a lot of learning, a big learning curve, very much outside of my comfort zone. But I was showing up and I was being resourceful. I was finding ways to memorize quicker. So that's also something that's very important to note about resourcefulness, is like, it's not just about the big things. Right now I'm talking career because it's a fun story and I want to bring you along and explain how resourcefulness showed up for me. But resourcefulness is also in the small things. It's also in teaching yourself how to speak slower. That's something I'm thinking about in these days, because I know I speak very quickly. I know I'm fast paced, and sometimes I get nervous and I speak even quicker. And as I'm saying this, I'm speaking quicker. So I will try to calm down again and stay calm. And my baby thinks this is funny. But being resourceful is also being resourceful in the sense that you can teach yourself maybe a new way of pronouncing, a new way of speaking, a new language. You can teach yourself a skill, like, I don't know, right now I'm learning about tarot reading. So at one point in my career, I taught myself how to have a telephone voice, how to pronounce better in English without people noticing that I have a French accent, a French Quebecois accent. I try to teach myself how to lose my Quebecois accent in French as well. What are you doing, sir? You're chatting along? So yes, there's also micro ways of being resourceful and finding ways to change things. You're not stuck with bad handwriting, for example. You can teach yourself to handwrite better. You can Google it. You can be resourceful. You can find out ways. And Google is your number one thing if you want to be resourceful. Google. Be open to research. Be open to discover. Be open and curious that there are ways to learn things. You're never too young, and you can learn anything you want. And if you keep learning and flexing that muscle, you are definitely going to develop your resourcefulness habit. Why am I doing this with my hand? You say, I don't know. I'm enticing you. So at this point, I'm hired at this restaurant and I have to learn the menu and I have to learn kitchen terms that I've never learned in my life. And so I'm being resourceful. I'm Googling, I'm researching, I'm asking questions. I'm also learning more than I need. So the position I had did not require me knowing wine, but at some point I was asking, please send me files for wine so I know what's going on in the restaurant. I know what people are doing when they're serving. They're referring wine. What does that mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? I'm being super curious and really resourceful of like trying to develop and learn and grow in this new industry that I'm in, which I had never been in, which is restoration, which is the industry I'm still in to this day. So we'll get to that. I am working for them, and then really pushing hard, really pushing myself, really trying to develop myself and to always be my best version of myself. So again, resourcefulness for me is pushing yourself and always finding new ways to discover, uncover, and learn new skills to be the best version of yourself, for your work, ultimately for yourself, but like it impacts your work, your relationships, and everything else, and it brings you to new levels. So I was working hard and all of that, and they noticed and they shifted me. They asked me if I wanted to work for their bigger restaurant because they had a position that opened for telephones. So that was to do reservations in their office. So long story short, I applied there. I met one of my greatest friends to this day, and she had trained me to work there. And again, I learned so much from her. And quickly I grew in that position. I developed. Again, I was resourceful, asking questions, asking what I can do more, what I can learn more. And I developed in that position. And I started doing a lot of different tasks other than just the phones and the reservations, which that was a huge big thing, because they had a big system of like how they're managing the restaurant, how they are making sure that they're productive and they're sitting the most people as possible in the right amount of time, so that the service stays fluid, the kitchen can be able to serve the clientele that's coming in as best as possible. So it was a really, really insightful and interesting job. Again, it was not the industry that I'm passionate about. I'm not a restaurateur. I love to eat. I love food. Like I love going to the movies, but it's not the thing that I'm passionate about. But I still was resourceful. I still did my best. I still kept pushing, trying to learn. And I was at the time also discovering myself, finishing up school, understanding what I like, what I wanted to do with my life, and trying to like understand, because at this point we are in my early 20s. So I was resourceful. I would ask questions. I would be curious. And I started doing like their private events. I started doing a whole bunch of things with them, their recruitment a little bit and stuff like that, in order to just grow, because I always wanted to grow. Being resourceful is also wanting to grow and wanting to develop and being curious, and that is definitely going to open doors for you and allow you to touch different areas and to learn different skills and to just develop from whoever's around you or whatever position you're in. So that's what happened there, and I was growing and growing. But then at some point I started really going into like the personal development. At this point I had maybe like a year and a half or 2 years under my belt of reading personal development books, really getting into that, understanding the power of the mind, understanding that I'm not stuck with my circumstances, and that I can actually push my resourcefulness and be even more resourceful and develop even more, and really try to connect with myself and figure out my gifts and where I wanted to go. So I realized at this point, like this industry was probably not the industry for me, because it's an industry but it's an industry that's a certain way usually, and the values are not usually aligned with growth and like development and leadership and all of that. It can be for sure in certain establishments, and I'm in an establishment today that is, oh my god, like mind-blowing. I can't believe I'm still in this business, and that it's a business that's so aligned with me, because I really thought I needed to leave the industry. So I left the industry, the restoration industry, for a while. I worked for Lululemon. I worked for a company in Granby who were selling crystal bracelets for a while. That was an amazing experience as well. And my goal was really to work with companies that were aligned with me. And what I realized is that even if I went into wellness companies, so Lululemon is a huge wellness company, but for me, when I was there, I did not feel like it was aligned with personal development, even though they preach it a lot, we talk about it a lot, it's really present in staff meetings, it comes up, but I didn't feel like the place I was and the team I had. So I'm not speaking for the whole company, I don't know, but I know that they preach it and they try to have that in their culture, and it's in their manuals and all of that. It's very present, it's in the lingo of the company. But for me, the team I had at that time, some people were so amazing. I love them. I still connect with them to this day. But just in general, the vibe, like I felt like was very burnt out, and people were tired, and it was not necessarily what I thought it would be. And like this again is like me talking about exterior motives, like, oh, the company is not what I thought it would be, like it should have been more personal development. That's on me. Like that's what happened, is that after a year in that role, I decided that I needed to leave that role, and it was a mutual decision, because like I was not able to show up fully there, because it wasn't aligned with me at all. And I had to be resourceful, and I had to accept that yes, the company is so good on paper, like a relationship can be. The company was so good on paper for me. It had ticked all my boxes, like you have no idea. It was showing me a pathway of all the amazing open doors that it could open for me. and it seemed amazing, but it was not working. I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole. Oh my God, I was trying so hard. I'm like, this has to work. Like, this company is so aligned with my values. It's so aligned with what I want to do. It's so aligned with what I am right now today, like coaching and all of that. And I know they prone that, and like that happens in that company. But for me, it was not working for me in that team or in that store. And I was trying to push it. And at some point I surrendered, and I was resourceful, and I found another way. Okay. So cut to leaving that job, and then afterwards I kind of like had to figure out, I also worked at that point for a clinic. Like, I think I had like 3 jobs at one point, even 4. And I was also working for an amazing clinic to this day. Like, it's like, I love their mission so much. It's a clinic that is called Neurofeedback in Montreal, and they mainly help people who have ADHD to rewire their brains in order to be not on their medication, and to rewire their brains so they do not have intense symptoms of ADHD. And that is amazing, because rewiring the subconscious and rewiring the brain, like, they do it in a really medical setting. And I learned that through my coaching a couple years afterwards. So in my coaching, in my hypnosis, in NLP, in the modalities that I learned, it's essentially how to reprogram the subconscious mind, how to actually speak to the subconscious mind in order to reprogram it, in order to have the life that you want. So for them, their focus is a lot on ADHD, but you can go in for performance or whatever it is that you want. So I worked for that clinic, and I was working for Lululemon. And then I remember at that point, I was like, okay, I need to find something else. And then at that point, I was also in the restoration industry, because I had went back, I'm pretty certain. Yeah, I had went back to help out, and like I was working half there, half the clinic, Lululemon as well. It was a big mix. Like, I can't believe I was doing those schedules, no days off probably. Like, it was crazy working out full time. I still made it work, and I was still resourceful, because I had goals and I wanted to get places and I wanted to do things, and I did them. And I still even went out a lot of the time. Okay, so you can make it work, girl. So yes, I was doing that, and then I realized, okay, I really need to find something that's more aligned with me, and that is really aligned with what it is I want to do. So I give myself an ultimatum. I quit the restoration industry, because in my mind, when I was looking at the big picture, I was like, this is definitely not the industry that I need to be in if I want to be into wellness, if I want to be into personal development and all these values that I had at that time. If I want to be in the growth development kind of space, I need to leave this business, which is restoration, which is not aligned with growth and development and personal development. So I decided to leave and give myself an end date. So I remember it was the summer. I gave them my 4 weeks, whatever it is that I gave them, in order to transfer all my duties at that restaurant. And I'm pretty sure at that point I was already done Lululemon, and then I was also quitting the clinic. And so at that point, I was looking for a job, and I was starting to interview. I would go to gyms. I would go to any place I could find. Again, I was being super resourceful, texting people I know that worked in fields that were related to wellness, and getting my foot in the door in these places. And then I was getting interviews. And when I was getting in those interviews, I was so not aligned with the vibe. Like, I would go into the interviews and I'm like, this is a gym, or this is whatever it is, or this is a wellness, whatever. And I did not feel like they were actually doing what they preached. So I didn't feel like it was authentic. I didn't feel like I wanted to work in that space. Like, I wanted to work in a wellness space, but where people were actually authentically real. People were actually authentically passionate about this, and actually not dramatic and not negative, and not like whatever it is that I was feeling in those interviews that pushed me to say no and refuse those offers and those positions. So cut short to, I was doing all these interviews for these wellness places, and they were not working out. And then I see this post on Facebook of someone I was following that was a mutual connection. And I see him he had written something like, I'm looking for SOMM. So I thought he meant someone. Looking for SOM, so some, for our new business that we're opening. Let us know if you're interested. And at this point, I was desperate. I was interviewing for all these wellness positions, all these positions that I thought were aligned with me. And finally, I realized like, oh my God, I'm at the end date that I gave myself for the restaurant, and that I said I would quit, and they hired somebody else to replace me, and I didn't find a job, and I'm not aligned, and I don't know what I'm doing, and so let me apply and let me tell him what I do, because he's looking for someone. And cut short, like, I realized he was looking for sommelier, which is, he had written the abbreviation of sommelier. I thought he was looking for someone, but again, I was resourceful. I read that really quickly. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna just propose what I know, what I do for this business, this restaurant group, and propose it to them, because I need something and I'm coming to my deadline and I don't know what to do. So let me send in my application. Let me tell him what I do for this current place, and let me just have this buffer job for the time that I find something else. So I apply there, I get an interview. I tell him, like, listen, I do this for this restaurant group. You're looking for someone. I'm this someone. Hello, I'm someone. I do X, Y, Z for them. I can do that for you. Let me know what you think. And this is what happened. He interviewed me, and they took me on in their offices, like as their assistant, and I started doing a whole bunch of things for them, with the phones being the main thing of them. So I started working for this group, and I discovered the most amazing group of passionate, like, I could blush because I love them so much. They're a group of owners, so they're multiple owners. I still work very closely with them. If you follow me on my vlogs on YouTube, or if you know me, you know I worked with this group in Montreal that is called Barocco Group. They are a beautiful, magnificent group, and these owners are a group of 5 owners that worked together, and they created this group, and they are so passionate, and they are so fulfilled and aligned with their mission. And their mission is to bring hospitality to their clients, to their teams, to develop their teams, to give back to their teams, to grow with their teams, and to help their teams grow non-stop. Like, there's so much growth in our business. People that come in with us, they grow so much, and they are always growing as our leaders. And so I ended up in a group of restaurant owners, working for them on the telephone at the beginning, and I'll explain what happened next, how I was resourceful and developed my career as well with them, and what happened there. But they were an amazing group with an amazing culture, an amazing set of values, an amazing determination, a passion, a zest, and just so much love for life, and love for their work and what they were doing, and so much passion. And they brought that into their work, and it was so fun to work with them. And I couldn't believe that I had applied for like a buffer job to get me through, and I did not realize the impact that this group would have on my life. They would contribute to my family. So I met my partner in this work area. So I met my partner through this group. I have my babies with my partner. Like, I developed my family. I developed a whole department with them, which is human resources, which is what I want to talk about, and how I was resourceful there, because I almost quit that job even though they were so aligned with me. So I really found my home. I found my people. I found people that were absolutely aligned with me, that knew how to have fun, knew how to party, but they were into personal development. They were into reading books. They were into questioning themselves. They were so resourceful, so resourceful. Like, I do not think you can work with us and not be resourceful, because everybody is, and that's like really dominant, and that's how we keep pushing the envelope, and we keep reinventing ourselves and pivoting and growing, even through COVID and through anything that's going to happen with this group. Like, it's just an amazing group. I'm so blessed to be a part of them. So I started working with them, and I was on the phones in the office, again, doing tidbits of things for them, and doing mainly reservations. And I was also hostessing for them at that point for one of their restaurants, which is a lovely Barocco in Old Montreal. It's so amazing. So at some point I got really it got redundant. I was in the perfect group with the perfect people, my family, honestly, but I was like, what am I doing? I'm not happy. And so I started being resourceful again within the group, because I was so happy. I found my tribe, I found my people, I found the group of people that I love so much, that are my family today. And so I started getting resourceful. I started going to the people that were like the managers in the group, that were the leaders in the group, and started to ask questions, and started to show my interest for something else, and started to show that I wanted to evolve with them, and that I needed to evolve, because if not, I would have to quit, because I wasn't fulfilled in the tasks and the duties that I had with them. But I really loved them so much that I was like, let me try to see what I can develop with them, what I can grow into with them, because I love this group so much. So I remember just trying to see if I wanted to be a waitress and really get into the wine and go and learn in school, because our servers are all very highly trained in sommellerie. And so I had to get trained if I wanted to do that. So I started looking into that. I started looking into bartending as well, which is the same thing, but in spirits. Like, you need to be trained spirit wise, and there are so many spirits. One of our cocktail bars has 700 plus spirits, like, and they all have around that much, like at least minimum 500 bottles. That's so much spirits, and it's such a dense and like interesting world. But I would go into dabble my feet and like talk with the people, and they inspired me so much because they were so passionate. So I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. But I would quickly realize, like, no, wait, this is not aligned with me. I'm being resourceful, I'm discovering things, and I'm being aligned with myself and listening to myself and seeing that this is not what interests me, and I don't want to do this. So I started dabbling and discovering different aspects of the business and trying to see where I fit in. And at some point, I kind of like myself put my arms down and was like giving up, kind of. And then someone told me, not, I can tell you who it is, like someone, my partner told me, why don't you literally think of the position that you want to do with us and create it and present it to us? He said something of the sort, and I was like, what do you mean? Like that is extremely resourceful. So number one resource tip from my partner, not even me, okay? He told me, you create the position you want, present it to us, and if everybody loves it, you'll do what you want to do. And so I literally created this position out of this idea, so out of nothing. Obviously, I based it into like, started to think, what do they need? What can I offer them with my skills and what I love to do? And so I was starting to think, like, what do I love to do? What's already happening for me in my environment? So I realized the position I was in, that I was connecting a lot with the staff members, that staff members were opening up to me. They would come to me, they would tell me their stories, they would tell me if they were upset about something, and they would open up and share with me. And so I went with that, and I realized I had a knack with people, and I was there for them, and people opened up to me. And so I was like, okay, so I'm really good with the human aspect of the business. So I'm good with the employees. Like, I'm good with employees. I'm good with our clients, but our clients, they can annoy me at some point because at some point I'm tired and I keep having to smile and pretend and put this mask on, and at some point I can't do it anymore. And being in the service industry, like, guys, it's such a hard job, and people who do this for a living, you guys are saints, you guys are amazing, you guys are wow. Like, it takes so much energy to constantly be happy all the time and serve people and make them have the best experience ever. Even if you're not having the best day, or if you're struggling, you're still showing up and you're making people have the most beautiful day. Like, for me, that's an art, and that's theater, and that's beautiful. But I knew I couldn't do it. Like, for me, that did not work. It wasn't aligned with me. It inspired me, but it wasn't something that I was able to do. So cut to, I realized, okay, like, I'm good with our employees. I'm good with connecting with them. What can I do with that? Oh, human resources. Oh my God, they don't have HR. Let me pitch HR. Let me pitch HR à ma sauce. Let me pitch HR the way I would do it. So I pitched it to them, really focusing on the beautiful culture and their values, and really focusing on the fact that they were really growing really fast. And I keep saying really, they were growing really fast, and I really wanted to help them and assist them in growing so that they did not lose their culture, and that everybody in the group, even though at that time we were maybe 50, 70, and today we're almost 200, I really wanted to help and create and assist in building something that would help them communicate their values, help them communicate who they were, their essence, and that it would stay on in the business and it would grow with them. And so they did not have to be present on the floor, and their message and their vision and their values were still strong in the business, and the culture was strong. So I really, really went into that and made a whole presentation about the culture and how amazing their culture already was, and how if we're growing, we need to have human resources that are communicating and vehiculing their culture to their employees, and creating kind of this human resources based on leadership and growth and development, and really on the culture of the business. And so I built this whole human resources department with them. They were right away on board because they are so aligned with that. And I was able to pinpoint that because, again, like I said, these are my people, and I was aligned and I was in the right place, even though it was in the wrong industry, like the quotation mark wrong industry that I did not think I would or needed to stay in, or I thought I had to leave that industry to find people who were passionate, to find people who wanted to develop themselves, who wanted to grow, and I did not. I found them in this business. So I created human resources with them. We developed that department. To this day, we are a whole huge operations in the office, not only in regards to me, but like just the group grew. There's operations now, there's human resources, there's social media marketing, there are customer service people, consulting, and we're all just a beautiful group of people working together with a passion for growth and development and all of that. cut to today, I do coaching as well. So maybe 2 years ago, I would say, when I started human resources with this group, I also right away applied to go back to school, because I realized, oh my God, I'm selling myself this position. I'm creating this position with this group of people, and I'm realizing kind of like what my passion is. And I love leadership and I want to go into leadership. So let me go and study that as well while I'm working. So I started studying full time. So I was working 40 40-hour weeks, and I was studying like 4 nights. I was so passionate. So when you're passionate and when you're aligned, you will not burn out, because you are literally in the right place at the right time. And even though it was hard sometimes, and it was hard for me to show up every time to class and to be fully present and to work as well, I was so aligned and on the right path and on the right direction that I was okay, and I was not burning out because I was aligned. It was aligned action. If you have aligned action, you will not burn out. You will feel inspired and you will have energy that comes from God knows where. All right. So I was doing that, and I built that with them, and the department took off, and my position kept growing. And to this day, I still work and consult with them. But at some point I started realizing that I had kind of masked my passion, which was being a coach, into HR. So I remember when my partner asked me when he met me, and before I presented HR, he had asked me like, what do you want to do? And I told him, shh, don't tell anyone, I want to be a life coach. But that's so lame, because 5 years ago, it was lame. Today, it's all the rage. It's so popular. At that time, I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this. This is what I love. Like, I would love to coach people, but it's like a charlatan business. Like, you can rarely find a coach online. I didn't even know coaches at that time or who coached. And I was like, I can't start doing that. Like, that's too woo-woo. So I need to kind of make it look pretty and professional by doing it with human resources and focusing on the coaching aspect of it. And to this day, my work in HR is focused on coaching and strategy and developing people. And it always was. And I would outsource, like I developed the systems for recruitment, the systems for onboarding, the systems for all these things. But those things I delegated, and I let other people who were really passionate about it and who were good at it do it. All right. So I realized 3 years in, I think, oh my God, I created this whole position for myself, but what I actually like is coaching. And I hid it from myself, and I knew I wanted this because I told my partner that. But now that it was becoming like, okay, I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do. And I remember I had searched for certificates when I had told my partner that I wanted to do that business, or I wanted to do that career, but I could not find anything. Again, it was like woo-woo. It was like, I'll train you, and it was random people. And so cut to me following someone from my camp monitor days. So my first job, full circle. This is so interesting. She posted that she had just bought her house, and she was doing her coaching certificate program, and she was coaching people. And I was like, wait, what do you mean you bought a house and then you also have a coaching certificate program? What do you mean? Like, I need to contact you right away. I right away messaged her. Again, being open to possibilities. Things will come into your lap, or they'll come your way, and you'll be open to them, and you'll be able to play on it and take an action and to keep opening doors for yourself. But you have to be resourceful. So I saw that opportunity. I DM'd her on Instagram, like, tell me more. What is this? Like, I wanted to be a coach my whole life, and you seem to have this coaching program that's like made for me. And it was so made for me. Like, the color scheme of her whole coaching program, the website was like a light pink with light greens, light pastels. For me, made for me. And it really helped me also connect with my feminine side more. And it helped me really like be the person I want to be business wise. Like, I loved that program so much. It was just insane. I couldn't believe I was studying. Like, I can study it all over again. I'm looking over at my book because I still have it beside me. It was an amazing program. I still go back to it all the time. Obviously, I coach to this day, so I still use everything that I've learned. But I was resourceful. I wrote to her. I right away applied. I had to also be resourceful in like, okay, it's a big chunk of money that I want to apply to this right now that I did not think of and put aside. How can I be resourceful? How can I raise the funds to invest in that and to reimburse it? So resourcefulness will bring you so far. It will bring you into aligned action if you let it, and it will bring you into a career path or relationship, a home you love, whatever it is that you want, like resourcefulness will be the key to unlock these doors and to open them and to keep opening them and to keep discovering new possibilities. So I really hope that this whole story was really inspiring to you and that you kind of like follow my whole career path and saw how in my career I was resourceful in order to create this kind of like beautiful career for myself to this day that's like a hybrid of coaching and human resources and consulting, and how beautiful that is. And now I'm trying to incorporate more of social media into it, and so YouTube and podcasting and all of these things in regards to the subjects that I love and the things that I learned. So if anything in this podcast today was interesting to you and you're applying to it, please let me know. Write me a DM on Instagram. Let me know if you are on YouTube. Comment down below. And I'm super interested if you want to ask me any questions about everything that I shared today, or if you want me to go more in depth into anything, or if you want to learn something from something that I said today that made you think of something, do not hesitate to comment. Please subscribe to the podcast. I'm so grateful to share this time with you. Thank you so much if you listened. Hopefully it was a good one for you, and I'm so glad I showed up and shared it with you, even though now it's 10:30. I gotta edit. I'm tired, but it was so fun. Aligned action. So I'm happy I showed up. I'm not burnt out. I'm so happy. Let's talk about burnout next. I really know people are interested in that. I definitely want to have a whole course for you guys about anxiety and burnout, just avoiding burnout in general, because I really think that even the best of us get burnt out when we are doing all of the things and we are not being aligned. So even if you're super passionate and you're in the right field, you can still burn out if you are doing all of the things. And it will help you with that in an upcoming podcast. Let me do this for the next one because it's going to be so interesting. And also let me know if there's anyone you guys want me to bring on the podcast as a guest. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk really soon, guys. Thanks. Bye.